The Panthers suffer another injury to their roster. And tell me if you've heard this before. The Panthers have a hard time finishing.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, November 10th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day on the number one sports podcast network. Shout out to everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. You can do that all on FanDuel. So, Florida Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. And yes, like we said at the top, the Locked On Podcast Network is number one regarding sports podcast networks all across America. And it's great that, and I've said this a couple of times here on the show, it is an absolute privilege to do this, not a right, whenever it comes to providing you guys a daily podcast Monday through Friday, and then 3 times during the offseason discussing everything when it comes to the Florida Panthers. And I'm so glad that we have grown together when it comes to my relationship with you guys, the listener, that you guys trust in me to give you guys a whole bunch of information and keep you guys up to date on everything regarding the Florida Panthers, and also not only with this podcast, but how much the Florida Panthers as a brand has grown in South Florida. And I hope that myself and the Locked On has provided that for each and every one of you, however you may choose to consume this show, whether it's on podcast or on YouTube. And, you know, with the Panthers' success, it's also inspired a lot of people to start podcasts of their own. And thankfully that's real. And that's outstanding when it comes to the growth of Florida Panthers hockey around here. But now let's go on to today's show, which today we are going to discuss the Florida Panthers and suffering another injury with Jonah Gadjovich, as he's going to be out 3 months. Then we're going to discuss the Panthers' lack of puck luck in their Saturday matchup in San Jose, and then discuss tonight's matchup as the Panthers will wrap up the road trip in Vegas, as the Florida Panthers will wrap up their season series against the Vegas Golden Knights right before returning home. Like I said, the Florida Panthers will be without Jonah Gadjovich for the next 3 months, and it was an injury that was suffered in the matchup in the first time around that the Florida Panthers met with the Vegas Golden Knights just a few weeks ago on the Saturday. And the Jonah Gadjovich took exception to a hit on Jeremy Lauzon, and then things got a little rough towards the end when it comes to the scrums outside of it. So I'm not necessarily sure when and where Jonah Gadjovich necessarily got hurt, but part of me thinks that was the stretch towards the end of the game that Jonah Gadjovich did suffer his injury. It was originally not reported, but it was originally said by Paul Maurice that they were gonna reevaluate in a few days. He was going to be out at least a week, and then said that he was going to not be with the team during the road trip, and then they would find out later on. But now there is confirmation on how Jonah Gadjovich is going to be out at least 3 months, as he will be getting surgery sometime this week. And it continues to just add up for this Florida Panthers team, as we've discussed so many times already about how they're going to be without Alexander Barkov for 5 to 7 months. Matthew Tkachuk is out until December. No timetable for Tomáš Nosek, as it's an indefinite injury situation for himself, and a top PK, top player forward on the PK for the Panthers, which is truly important there. You're missing guys on both sides of the ice for the Cats, and then Kulikov, who we realize that the third pair is an absolute force for the Panthers. And when you look at the balance of the Cats, Dmitry Kulikov definitely brings a lot of that. Although Sebrango has been pretty great when it comes to how well he's activated in the offense, timely pinches, and there's plenty of times that he's been on the ice where he's just been a plus player for the Panthers. But still, you when you look at the physicality of Dmitry Kulikov, which all-time hits leader for the Panthers, that's really one where you kind of miss him whenever it comes to the lineup. But Jonah Gadjovich, let's not forget that when Jonah Gadjovich first got to the Florida Panthers in 2024 and 24, even though he didn't participate in training camp due to an injury at the time, he was still making multiple rounds of cuts because the Florida Panthers truly saw a lot of potential there with Gadjo and just what he can do whenever inserted into the lineup as bringing as a guy who is not afraid to fight for his teammates and the guy who can really be part of a great checking line for himself and the rest of the crew there. And especially after Stanley Cup and after the first Stanley Cup run where he didn't play a single game in the postseason, where we saw a revolving door around the fourth line with Kevin Stenlund, Ryan Lomberg, Kyle Okposo, and then watching that from the press box. I remember especially being in the first round series covering it when the Panthers were in Tampa Bay. The scratches for the away team are right next to the reporters, and you could see just the excitement on their faces whenever the Panthers did score, on just how well they are behind their teammates, and also the opportunity to learn as things are a little slowed down more when you're watching it from up above versus when you are on the ice. And the fact that Jonah Gadjovich took that opportunity to learn and then be part of the mix, especially after game 2 of the second round series in 2024-25 against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and him, AJ Greer, and Tomasz Nosek being truly the difference in that turnaround for the Panthers. Although they weren't necessarily getting consistently on the score sheet, that was a line that was not giving up goals against while they were on 5-on-5. I've repeated this so many times, but the first goal against at 5-on-5 throughout that entire playoff run did not come until the Stanley Cup final. So just an impressive run on how the Florida Panthers just consistently played their style of hockey that was just tight around the net, fighting for loose pucks, and then getting it out immediately, and then continuing to get on their forecheck. And the Panthers are going to be without that for a while right now, and and the thing is, it's different lines that are dealing with injuries. I mean, in a healthy year, you see Matthew Tkachuk playing on that second line with Sam Bennett, Alexander Barkov manning the first line center, and then the top PK playing with Sam Reinhart, and then you're missing one of your key fourth line checkers for this team. It's just another blow, and you just wonder how many more can this Florida Panthers team truly take. As right now, the Panthers have 13 forwards right now for them. I expect that the Panthers, when they do return back home, I don't think they're going to do this when they're already out west and that the road trip is going to be wrapping up tonight, that they're going to be calling up someone immediately. But I do expect that when the Florida Panthers do return home against the Washington Capitals on Thursday night, that they are going to be probably calling up Jack Stanicka from AHL Charlotte, and that he is going to be playing with the Florida Panthers in their lineup come Thursday. Not playing, but maybe part of the team and getting in some practices. But this is also an opportunity for other guys to get in on the action for the Panthers here, as sometimes Luke Cunnin has been in and out of the lineup for the Panthers. Noah Gregor has shown quite a lot of speed for the Panthers on just being that first guy to the end boards or to the corners to battle for the pucks. But that's another thing that thankfully AJ Greer is on pace for a career high in goals, as he currently has 3, and Luke Cunnin has, like I've said in the offseason, he has 6 double-digit goal seasons, and no Panther fourth liner even had 10 last year. Neither of them had even 5 last year. So thankfully that the floor, at least offensively, is still raised. Although their foundation defensively has been outstanding for the Panthers, that it creates more opportunity. But again, the roster is still a little thin. And I looked at Puckpedia right before coming on this podcast and hitting the record button, that the Panthers have only $1.4 million in current cap space, and including deadline cap space. With the Panthers being on LTIR, they can't accrue any of that to make any moves at the deadline. And I do think that the Panthers are going to be quiet, as they might try to put in some offers for players, but it does take 2 to tango, and the Panthers don't have a lot to give. But also the solutions do have to truly come in-house for the Panthers, as even the analytics, the The expected goals against per game, the Panthers are number 1 in the league. The expected goal share, the Panthers are at 57%, which is 3rd in the NHL. And as far as top lines in the NHL, as far as those analytics, the Rodriguez, Verhaeghe, Reinhart line is at an expected goals percentage at 70%. So at least the Panthers are still creating those high danger chances and still getting the pucks and still getting in the offensive zone and still leading the league in shots against per game. The Panthers are still doing those foundational things right, and you just hope that the Panthers can find their bounces and for it to go their way. But we can't deny that the lack of bodies and the lack of the Panthers' top guys being there is truly a factor to why the Florida Panthers can't find really consistent play. And you just hope the best for Jonah Gadjovich and the rest of the guys who are on the shelf for the Florida Panthers, dealing with so many long-term injuries. And yeah, this is the product of three straight Stanley Cup runs, as the mileage is truly catching up to the team. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to discuss the Panthers' 3-1 loss against the San Jose Sharks from the Shark Tank in Saturday night's matchup. We're going to discuss how the Florida Panthers process was great, but the results weren't necessarily there. We're going to discuss that more next year on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. And did you need to hire someone like yesterday and you just realized your business needed to hire someone? You can find amazing candidates fast, easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. I've been in that position where I've needed to make the right hire. It was like yesterday. The pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly what Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcasting network. And the Florida Panthers, man, you look at you watch this game on Saturday night between these two teams, of the Panthers and the Sharks, late on a Saturday night, as these West Coast games are still very tough to stay up for. As if any of you guys have watched the movie Monsters Inc., there's that gif of Boo kind of blinking and just trying to stay awake. But that's just been me this whole week, and that's going to continue tonight, as I have right here my 3rd cup of coffee for the day, as it's going to be another long night for the Panthers being out west. Can't wait to be back into 7:00 puck drops on Thursday night for when the Panthers do return home. But the Panthers, I mean, when you think of this game, and when you even watch, and if you guys do decide to rewatch, and if you go on Panthers Plus or even ESPN Plus, like, these games are on demand. So when you look at the process for the Panthers on just how they did, even in the first period, even though the shot on goal advantage was 14-7 Sharks, I truly did love the Panthers process on how they started to become physical. Like I mentioned, Donovan Zabrango is one guy who pinches at the correct times, but also he's brought his fair share of physicality. And also Daniil Tarasov has kept the Panthers from it getting to a bigger deficit than it already was earlier. But the Panthers really truly spread the San Jose Sharks from the middle and didn't really protect the ice well. And a lot of the times when the Panthers were coming off the flank when transitioning out of their D zone of 200 feet, the San Jose Sharks really truly left the middle of the ice open, as their defense were more towards getting near the dots instead of closing in and collapsing near. And the Panthers off puck, I thought they were great when it came to just the times that we saw the Panthers get those saucer passes into the slot, and then and the thing is, the Panthers were very quick on their decisions to one touch, and whenever the puck does land in the lower slot, and when it does reach the tape, there's not as much time to handle the puck. So a lot of the times the Panthers were really truly making those quick decisions, and sometimes just not getting the puck high enough, where Askarov, right, like I mentioned, shout out to my right catch goaltenders, that he was getting those pads down, and those shots for the Panthers weren't going above the pads as much as you like. Even when the Panthers were battling at the end boards, and then getting the puck from the end boards to near the goal line and the blue paint, the Panthers were, even though some of the shots, there was one shot that Brad Marchand had that was a little bit of a sharp angle. Those were another quick decisions for the Panthers on getting the puck to the net. And yeah, again, you might be thinking, okay, what if one more handle could have gotten the Panthers to get a better high quality chance? But the thing is, the times that even when the Panthers were winning their battles, the Sharks, whenever they did lose, at least the thing is, the Sharks are learning to play more of those lower scoring games for themselves, and they're collapsing around the net front a lot better. But I mean, yeah, Yaroslov Askarov stole the game for the San Jose Sharks here, and this is one where you see 2 points for the that the Panthers, you feel like they deserve, but they ended up with nothing. That for the Panthers, once again, is how you look at this, and you like the process for the Panthers, but not necessarily the results. But then you look 32-9 when it came to the Sharks breaking it out, and it's not even the fact that the Panthers were meeting them at their own blue line, but it was the red line that the Florida Panthers were just closing in gaps and then getting in the support when and then you see it pin, the puck breaks free, and then there's a skater right there to get the puck and dump it in and roll the next line for the Panthers. And also for the Panthers, how quick they were able to respond after the San Jose Sharks went up 2-0. Adam Gaudette, which there's a part of me that wanted the Panthers to really truly challenge that for a high stick that Dmitry Orlov threw on net. But the credit to the Panthers on crashing the net. Askarov was towards the top of the crease, and then his helmet did fall off, but you don't blow that right away as the play continued. And Brad Marchand, goal number 10 on the season, he's been outstanding for the Panthers. But on the first goal for the San Jose Sharks there, which was shortly after the Panthers were on the power play, I'm not so upset about Aaron Ekblad losing the puck on that play. I'm more annoyed about how slow the Panthers were to get back to the middle of the ice, where Macklin Celebrini had a clear lane, and then Will Smith was able to set him up. And Celebrini, you look at the NHL points throughout, you see Nathan McKinnon, and then you see 3 teenagers who aren't even old enough to drink right now in Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard, and Leo Carlson for the Anaheim Ducks, which another big win for the Anaheim Ducks just this weekend against the Vegas Golden Knights, which we'll discuss a little bit later. But I'm more annoyed of that because the Panthers, like I said, the Panthers did really everything right at 5-on-5, but that one time that they didn't get the support necessary, it really cost them, and it really put the Panthers behind the 8 ball, and it resulted with the Panthers and their speed of them drawing the constant stick infractions. And I don't know why Ryan Reeves was complaining the way he was whenever he did go to the box. He fell behind and did trip Luosterainen, and the Panthers had their chance when they had the 11 seconds on the 5-on-3, and then the constant turnovers on the power play, and the lack of getting those more of those redirections, that was a little bit of a problem for the Panthers there on Saturday night. And just this is just one where you're just scratching your head, and you look at outlier performances. This is one of those outlier performances for the Panthers that just flat out don't go their way. You see 39 shots, and you should win more 9 times out of 10. And the Script Sports broadcast even brought it up in the pregame show, where they talked about goal support goal support average, which I had. That's not really a stat that I've really that I've really seen on websites. So credit to Script Sports for finding that stat. I need to know what site they use so that I could see more of those advanced ones. But Tarasov has not had the support. And they even provided all the graphics of a graphic of all the games that the Panthers have had, where of how many goals that they've scored. I mean, you 3 times that it's been 1, and then twice has been two goals for the Panthers. And just you feel bad for Tarasov because at least this time the Panthers did control the play, but they couldn't get a win for their new backup goaltender in the mix in Daniil Tarasov. So this is another frustrating one for the Panthers, as you know, once again it's costing the Panthers from getting being consistent there and getting some wins to create some separation, as there hasn't really been any in the Eastern Conference. And the Panthers not afraid to get pucks on the net, and also slowing down a team that likes to play with high pace as well in San Jose. So you just hope that the Panthers can eventually go for an explosion like we saw in game number 3 of the season for the Panthers. So that's going to do it for this second segment, discussing the Panthers 3-1 loss against the San Jose Sharks. But the Panthers will be wrapping up the road trip in Vegas tonight, as the Panthers will wrap up the season series against the Golden Knights. We'll discuss that and more next year on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has a lot of live bets with everything from who will score the next fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps everything exciting, especially when your team is making the late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Third and final segment here on this Monday, November 10th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcasting network, as the Florida Panthers wrap up this season series against the Vegas Golden Knights from T-Mobile Arena. Another 10 p.m. puck drop as the Panthers look to get their second win ever in Vegas, and the Panthers their only win in Vegas came the year after they lost the Stanley Cup final to the Vegas Golden Knights. As the Panthers, I'm sure they were truly motivated that night, and bad memories from especially in game 5, giving up 9 goals and then being able to come out with the win. Although I'm not a believer in regular season revenge, because you didn't necessarily win the round that is more important versus a regular season game. Just like if the Edmonton Oilers beat the Florida Panthers in a regular season, did they really get revenge? No, they didn't. So, but it will be great to see another win for the Florida Panthers, and hopefully to get their second one in the Fortress tonight from T-Mobile Arena. But just like Florida, the Vegas Golden Knights have been getting the opposition's best, especially since the last time that these two teams met, facing Tampa Bay twice and losing at home. And get a low-scoring game against the Detroit Red Wings that ended up 1-0. We mentioned earlier about the Anaheim Ducks being legit. That's one team that is a force in the Western Conference. I did mention all the points for the NHL, and those are all guys from the Western Conference, which thankfully with the Panthers and where they are in the East, they are in the weaker conference. If I'm thinking about this objectively, and there's still a lot of time to get things together, and no better night to get it together, hopefully, than being in playing the Vegas Golden Knights, who are still thin in the goaltending position. No Aiden Hill still, no Mark Stone, Carter Hart, who they signed to a contract after that situation with the 2018 World Junior team. He isn't eligible to play until December 1st, still serving a suspension from that incident. But so they're going with the Akira Schmid, Carl Lindbaum tandem there, but the points are evenly distributed for the Vegas Golden Knights. They could still score at will, and if it's not Jack Eichel scoring, it's Ivan Barbashev. It's not Ivan Barbashev, it's Mitch Marner, which the Panthers were able to limit Vegas in that stretch where the Panthers only gave up 17 shots on goal at home. But can you replicate that on the road? They surely did in San Jose whenever it came to not allowing the high danger chances against. But the power play's got to get going. The penalty kill has been on a nice run since the game in Anaheim, going on a nice little stretch there since then. And to think that even in the third period, I didn't mention this in the last segment, but the Panthers in the third period on one of their power plays had the puck in the Shark zone the entire 2 minutes, and the Sharks weren't even able to change their forwards until later on in the power play with about like maybe 20 seconds left, maybe less. I don't necessarily remember all of it on the top of my head, as once again, it was a late night game on a Saturday for the Panthers. But still, that this is where you need a lot of you need to get going on the power play. And also, I didn't mention this. Carter Verhaeghe took Mackie Samoskiewicz's place on the power play on Saturday night. Originally, I thought that Verhaeghe was taking his place due to drawing a penalty and being on the ice immediately after, but that was a unit that was putting Carter Verhaeghe there over and over again, which again, I want to give Mackie I would want to see Mackie Samoskiewicz get more chances on the power play, as right-handed shot from the left side. The goaltenders have a harder time reading those shots that could go far side versus a left-handed shot on the left side. You could get those glove saves a lot easier whenever it comes to getting those chances. But with how Carter Verhaeghe is more experienced in letting it rip, I can also understand the change of why the coaching staff wanted to make that. But the Vegas Golden Knights, they can score, they can defend, they're in the top 15 in those categories. But just like how the Panthers had a rough stretch after game number 2 in the season whenever it came to their PK, the Vegas Golden Knights are having a hard time whenever they go to the box. But this is something that Bruce Cassidy coached teams are very disciplined. Although the percentage isn't great, they don't go to the box a lot neither, and it's a very disciplined bunch. And the thing is, the forwards for Vegas are ones who could play defense as well. And right now, when the Panthers did face the Vegas Golden Knights previously, the Mitch Marner and Jack Eichel weren't on the same line. It's the same thing it's the same thing coming into this game according to Daily Faceoff. But if need be, they could put themselves on the same line. It's kind of the opposite of what you would do when you need offense from a Connor McDavid and a Leon Draisaitl. In late game situations, you could put Jack Eichel and Mitch Marner there if you need to play shut down hockey come late in games. So that's kind of a polar opposite whenever it comes to their play styles and just the personnel when it comes to the roster for Vegas there. But also Edmonton's not in the best place after giving up 9 goals to Colorado the other night. The Panthers could have borrowed some goals from Colorado there. But that's where it's going to be truly important for the Panthers on just getting those goals early, because we see the stats show, especially if you go to Hockey Reference and you click on the tab that says situational, they win games more often than not when they are going into third periods leading, and more often than not, it's either been tied or leading for them throughout, and not such a great record, and not whenever they are trailing. So it's a tough place to play. Historically, it hasn't been friendly to them, but we hope that the Panthers can get more of those second chance opportunities, and that they could prevent the Vegas Golden Knights from clearing their net front there. And thankfully for the Panthers, it's an opportunity to once again pounce on a goaltending unit and a defense unit once again without Alex Pietrangelo, to find a way to just to pounce early and get comfortable and play and shut it down, especially with how great once again that they were at their red line and closing gaps, that they could do it once again. Although the Vegas Golden Knights are older, more experienced, so that's really truly the key that I have for tonight's game. Whenever it comes to that, about closing gaps and getting the puck out quickly for the Panthers. But that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Make sure to tune in for tomorrow's edition of the show, where we are going to break down this game between the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights as the Cats wrap up this 4-game road trip, and then it'll be a long homestand for the Panthers, a 5-game homestand, home cooking that the Florida Panthers will hopefully have, as they've been outstanding at home. But it doesn't happen without 2 points first, hopefully on the road, to wrap up a road trip at 500 and to salvage it, more importantly. But thank you, as always, for listening to this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast on the #1 sports podcasting network. And in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast so you'll be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.